Megan Joyce, the East Coast General Manager for Uber, joins me now. Megan, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Can we just get one thing off the table? Because when people knew you were coming, I got a lot of email about Kalamazoo. As horrible as that thing was, and it's an Uber driver, the guy had no criminal record. So no amount of anything could have dealt with this in terms of background checks.
That's exactly
I just
right.
want to make that clear.
That's exactly right. Terrible story.
Almost everybody I've interviewed, from the governor on down, with the exception of cab drivers, by the way, actually loves Uber. But there are a few people, there's some disputes, as you well know. Police chiefs in Massachusetts, including Bill Evans in Boston, I spoke to him yesterday, and the mayor of Boston, want you to fingerprint your drivers for, they say, maximum safety for your riders. You guys say no. Why?
So look, even before I came to work for Uber, I was a rider. And the reason that I was such a faithful rider was because I knew that anytime, day or night, I could request a ride and safely and reliably get where I need to go. And now that I work with Uber, it is my professional job to ensure that that's the case. Every ride, every time, safe ride for both riders and drivers alike.
Why not make it safer? Why not raise the bar? Even if you're right, and I don't know enough to know if you're right, what Bill Evans, if he was sitting there, the commissioner, would say, fine, let's make it even safer. Let's fingerprint it. We can learn more about your drivers than you currently know. What's wrong with that?
So background checks are certainly a part of it, and they are an important first step. But we think about safety holistically. It's critically important to ensure that not only the background check, but also the technology before, during, and after the trip is ensuring safety at every point along the way. And that's why you see the name and photo and license plate number of the driver. You can share your ETA, a live feed of your ride with a loved one as the ride's going on. You have a full GPS map delivered to your inbox the minute the ride is over. And we solicit feedback on every single ride from both riders and drivers.
But why no fingerprinting? Even if all that's true, and I assume if you say it is, it's true, why not add that to the litany of things that ensure the person in the back seat is as confident as possible that he or particularly she is safe? Why not?
Yeah.
You're doing it in New York, by the way. Uber, from what I read today, Uber drivers in New York have agreed to this, but you come here, David Plouffe, former Obama guy, is here yesterday, works for Uber, saying, no, it's not happening. Why not? If it's good enough for New York, why is it not good enough for Boston?
So the fact is, no background check is perfect, and we have two major concerns with fingerprints. One is that they're incomplete. The U.S. Government Accountability Office, the GAO, published a study just last year which showed that there were significant holes across the fingerprinting background system. So that's one significant
One of your own
concern.
30-party contractors I read today who works for Uber said fingerprinting is more thorough than what you do. But go ahead, what's your second one?
You know, there's a second concern which has been broached by both the NAACP, ACLU, organizations like that, who say fingerprints can introduce the potentially discriminatory nature of the criminal justice system into the independent contractor system. So fingerprints are based on arrest records, not conviction records. And they are often not updated to reflect conviction records. So if you were arrested and never convicted, you're going to get caught up in a series of red tape and problems through that fingerprint background check.
Well, Evans told me yesterday he wouldn't stop one of those people if that came up. Why don't you just go to the legislature that's considering laws regulating you and say, by the way, we want to be sure that an arrest record alone, if we agree to fingerprinting, will not be used against the driver. Isn't that a reasonable compromise?
Yeah, you know, we feel really good about the background checks that we're doing on our system. And we believe that it's critically important to ensure that both riders and drivers are receiving benefit from the platform. Don't forget that there are two groups of people who rely on this. Riders to get a safe, reliable ride, and drivers to make a critical income that they didn't have access to just a few years ago.
Can I add one group of people?
Please.
Parents. By the way, I've been quoting Bill Evans. Here's Bill Evans himself. He was on Boston Public Radio yesterday, explaining what he thinks Uber misses that he captures with these fingerprinting that they're now doing on all the cab drivers. Here he is.
They don't have access to the sexual offender registry the way we do. They don't have access to the national database that we have. So I think they're a little misleading in the type of criminal record check they do.
How about that? How about the sex offender registry thing? That's a pretty big deal. How about it? Is he wrong? Is he right?
So the way that our background checks work is we partner with a third-party accredited background checker who has full lifetime look-back access on the National Sex Offender Registry. And so if the applicant has ever been on that list, they would not be eligible for the platform.
So you don't miss level 1, 2, or 3 by not doing a fingerprint. So you disagree with Evans?
Look,
you disagree with Evans?
Absolutely. Our background checks will capture that and more, and we feel really good about them.
You know, a couple more things briefly. You guys, I read a press release you put out. You settled a couple of cases for $28.5 million on the West Coast about safety things. Your press release reads, to $28 million to around 25 million riders to avoid using certain language and safety-related advertising, as well as the term safe ride fee. So your own company has agreed that you've exaggerated the safety to the point where you're willing to shell out $29 million. So again, if it's done in New York and there's been a problem here, why not just say yes on certain conditions and everybody goes home, no?
You know, it's really interesting. There are millions of riders throughout the Commonwealth and over 20,000 drivers who rely on this platform every day. And a lot of those drivers are people who didn't have access to flexible work as they needed. And when they come on the platform, it's our goal to ensure that we're balancing and that we have the highest standards of background checks that keep people safe while also ensuring that people who really need access to that income can get on the road.
Three very quick things, we're running out of time. One, if fingerprints were forced upon you, as they were in San Antonio, after which Uber left town until they withdrew the mandate, would you guys leave Boston?
Look, the city of Boston and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts need Uber. I take Uber several times a day, and I hear that from the millions of people who
Would you
use
leave
it on a
Boston
regular
if they
basis.
forced you to fingerprint
I'm
your
optimistic
people?
we won't have to even get to that conversation.
Would you appear here with Evans, by the way? With the commissioner, if he was willing to? He said he'd be happy to appear with you, he told me. Would you be?
We'll see, we'll see. But
Would
we
you be
really
willing to? He
appreciate
said yes. Would you?
No, please. Look.
What do you mean, no, please? It's a simple question. Would you appear with the commissioner if he said he was willing to appear with you?
My goal is to help educate both riders and drivers alike, as well as the broader public.
Will you help educate
about
with
the
him
truth.
sitting by you?
We'll see, we'll see.
So that's a no.
We'll see.
Pleasure to see you.
Thank
Megan
you so
Joyce,
much,
thanks
Jim.
so much.
Really
Great to
appreciate
see
it.
you.